this trade. What is it? We're in week 8, and the trade. We're going to start with the trade between Glenn and Justine. It seems like there was a little bit of polarization because I did get a protest from somebody about this.
Really?
For it being too one-sided. I'm assuming that the protest was assuming Justine was getting too much here, but I don't. One, it wasn't too one-sided. I think there's a very big sort of risk-reward component to this, but I wanted to see what you thought first.
I mean, it's a big risk reward for both. I mean, Stephon Diggs is hurt and banged up, and Tevin Coleman, he's good, but he's second fiddle to Devontae Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it was a nice 1-for-1. I thought it made sense for both teams. Stephon Diggs is a talent, and he's shown that. So, I mean, I didn't have much of a problem with it. I saw it, and I'm like, thank God, somebody other than me making a trade.
Well, yeah, I thought it was interesting. I will say, if you look at least analytically from numbers and stuff, it looks like Justine gets a slight edge. And I know the reason Glenn made this trade was mostly because of a frustration over Diggs' injury. That's
Right.
what it comes down to. Diggs is again. We have no idea if he's going to play this week. I think he's questionable, but I believe Minnesota. He's in London with the team, but it sounds like he's going to play. With that said, he hasn't played in a few weeks. Groin injuries are a little tough when you get to the lower body injuries, especially when you're a wide receiver. Gotta remember, Diggs hasn't had his bye week yet, so after this week, he's not available for Justine to play.
Right.
It's interesting how this is going to play out. To me, I've never been a fan of Diggs because I like consistency, and Diggs is very boomer bust.
Right.
He's a guy that puts up a lot of big games, and then the next week, not so much. Coleman is kind of the opposite of that in that Coleman, you have an idea of what you're going to get, but you're not likely going to get that big game from him. A lot of his games, you look at his point totals from this year, there was one 17-point game, and then, of course, last week, Atlanta looked like crap. But other than that, he's scored between 9 and 12 points in the other 4 games. And that's kind of what you're going to get from Coleman in any given week for the most part.
And he's a steady Eddie.
I get why Glenn did that. To me, though, I don't know. I'm giving the nod to Justine. I think Justine's going to come out winning this trade if Diggs stays healthy. The thing is, it's a big if. The big if. But you can't blame her for making the deal with how, from Justine's point of view, she doesn't have a spot for Coleman in her lineup because she's so stacked at running back. And she needed a big play wide receiver like Diggs on her team. For Glenn, he's got a lot more of these consistent type guys at wide receiver. It can't hurt to hoard some running backs, especially considering running backs are a little bit in demand. It's hard to say how this is going to play out, though. I agree. This is, in my eyes, and I think in a lot of people's eyes, it's a pretty balanced trade when you weigh the different risk-reward components.
Agreed.
Yeah, so it's one of those. We'll see how it turns out. It could go either way, but it's an interesting trade. And I'm with you. I was glad to see that that there was a deal here.
Yeah.
Hoping it spurs a little bit more deal. And we are actually less than a month from the trade deadline now.
Ooh.
Deadline is November 21st. I believe. Yes. Or 22nd. I'm sorry. It's the day before Thanksgiving, whatever day that is.
By the way, you know who's coming back in 2 weeks?
What's in 2 weeks?
Danny Woodhead.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know what to think about that. We're gonna
Oh.
do. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know what to think about that. We're gonna jump into free agents. The big pickup was actually not listed on here. It was on Friday with Larry bidding $31 for Rob Kelly. I have no idea why he spent that much money on Rob Kelly. Um,
Why?
can't justify it.
Why would you do that, Larry?
I don't know why he did that. I got Jalen Richard. I overspent on him mostly because I really wanted him. AKA, I wanted to block somebody else from getting him. So that was part of
Would
my
that be Larry?
justification. No, just in general. Not thinking Larry specifically, but
Mm.
um, other than that, nothing too crazy here. Yeah, that's about it. Nothing
Okay.
else that I see to talk about here. All right, standings. Where are we here? James, that win last week, game of the season so far, I would say, that comeback. That against Glenn, that was just. Did you really think you were going to pull that out heading into Monday night?
No, not necessarily, but I said to myself, I'm about 45 points down, but Wentz has been hot. And if he has a great game and Chris Thompson hits his projection approximately, I got a shot. But when I woke up the next morning, I'm like, wow, it actually happened.
Yeah, and that was one of the closest finishes. I believe Thompson. Um, if I had the play-by-play down correctly, he had the game-winning catch that got you 2 points in the win with about second or third to last play of the game.
Right.
So it came down all the way to the wire. And for Glenn, I mean, he's now 3-4. He's outside of the top six. And it's crazy because he's lost 2 games by 1 point so far. He also lost to Steve by 1 point week one. And 2 weeks ago, he lost to Larry by 3 points. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's having, in a sense, bad luck of a different sort this season, in that his team is losing a ton of close games. He doesn't have the points against problem that he'd had last year, but he's just having, again, bad luck of a different kind. And so because Glenn lost, Justine, who I keep saying this, I put her team on blast, 5 or 6 weeks ago. She is now in first place in the North at 4-3. You're leading that crazy Central Division, James, 6-1. I'm leading the South at 5-2. I brought
Yeah.
up the playoff picture.
No, I'm just surprised that once again I surpassed your win projection that you had for me.
You did. 5 wins, right? I think I predicted 5-8.
Yep.
Yeah. I do so well at those things, don't I?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Playoff picture. You're in pretty good shape right now, James. 6-1, with 6 weeks to play. I'm a little concerned with my team because my team hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks, but I've got a cushion. Last week, the entire Central won. So,
Wow.
and the entire South lost. So the Central is just continuing to dominate the league, to the point that Rob, who's sitting in last place by teams over third place in your division, is
Mm-hmm.
more or less a win away from getting into a playoff spot. It's probably not going to happen, but there's always technically a possibility that the entire Central was would get into the playoffs.
Has
That would be crazy.
has that ever happened?
No, no.
Wow.
The only way for that to happen would be, they would take all the wild card spots. So the playoffs would essentially be the entire Central Division, and then whoever wins the other two divisions. Nobody else.
Right.
I don't think when you factor in divisional games like this week, where two teams have to lose in your division, I mean, that sort of knocks you down. But I don't know. I'm not going to rule anything out at this point.
Right.
But right now, I mean, Michelle and Mo are 2 games ahead of the 3 and 4 teams for the wild card. Because Glenn lost last week, he gets knocked out of the playoffs position. Woj is in the 6th spot right now. And then
Wow.
Then behind him is Glenn, and then Rob and Larry, who I kind of left for dead 2 weeks ago. Since then, they've both won 2 straight games. So
Right.
So things are getting interesting a lot of different ways. All right, games now. Game of the week. What a surprise, right? But it's both of these teams are 5-2. Michelle and Mo, and obviously James. As I said, obviously we'll see what happens with you. But winner of this one, if you were to lose this week, the winner of this one's in a tie for first place.
That is true.
And this is probably going to be a game that's very important when it comes to tiebreakers. First meeting, Michelle won by a large margin, but this is a new week. This is a bye week, and that's one thing to keep in mind this week. I believe there are 6 teams on bye. Players are missing from lineups. So, and Michelle's a good example of this because she's missing her best player in Todd Gurley.
Right.
It doesn't look good for her, unfortunately, this week. It's just the way the bye weeks work, but there's not a lot to like. She still has a wide receiver problem, which, at the end of the day, Michelle's going to have to take care of, pick up another wide receiver, in my opinion. She can't keep trotting out Cole Beasley and Tyler Lockett every week, no matter how good her running backs are. Missing Todd Gurley is obviously huge. She's also missing. I mean, you look at how many guys she has on bye this week, or basically most of her bench.
Mm-hmm.
For Mo, she's not in that same situation quite that much. I mean, she's got Gordon and Elliott, Tyreek Hill's in the lineup, McKinnon's in the lineup. I think Mo's going to win big just based on, the fact that she actually has most of her lineup intact this week, and Michelle's, missing Gurley. This is you see how weak Michelle could be if, 1 or 2 guys got hurt down the stretch. So.
Right. Yeah, I'll agree with Mo, but I think it's going to be much closer because we all know Devontae Freeman can go off. I'm not saying he will, but he can. You're looking at Chris Hogan against the Chargers. He could go off. So I think it's going to be closer than we expect. But yeah, I'll still give Mo the nod. Not a problem.
I did want to ask you this question because this is considering you're in the same division with them, and it's probably going to be a dogfight for first place to win this division down the stretch. Who do you think? Which one of these teams you think is a bigger threat to you?
I hate to say it, they both are.
You skipped out.
No, I did not, because they both have very strong teams, very deep teams, and whoever wins this game, it's pivotal, but in turn, I'm not feeling too good either way, whoever wins, because they're both very strong teams. Mo's team, it's a little more complete right now because Odell is out for the season, but I mean, Michelle's 5-2 for a reason, and she's got a good team. So you know, either way, it's bad news bears for me. I just hope I can keep it up and keep doing what I'm doing.
The thing, and this kind of sucks with the way it hasn't really worked out in this league. The divisions usually have evened out at the end of the season, but the way that
Right.
if the playoffs were to start today, I don't know if you've noticed, but all three Central teams would be stacked in the top half of the bracket.
Right.
So Michelle and Mo would actually be playing one another if the playoffs start today in the wild card round, with the winner playing you.
Right.
And then that winner going to the championship, which is a brutal playoff.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's like one of those things, I think, where people in the other divisions are like, well, at least we only have to play these guys one time each, and then we're done with them.
Yep.
Because nobody's beaten any. People are having all trouble winning against any of you three at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is like the NFC East on a good year, where everybody's just demolishing each other.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we've got a long way. We got 6 weeks to go still until the playoffs, but a lot can happen. Right. I mean, it's highly unlikely, but one of these guys could lose 6 straight and finish 5-8 in theory. So.
But I strongly do not see that happening.
I don't either. I'm just saying in theory, So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
We'll see. All right, moving on to my guys. We're going up against Glenn, and Glenn's slide just continues. It continues. He's lost 2 in a row, 4 of 5.
And there he is, flipping us off. Look at him.
He's flipping us off. Yeah, I still swear he's never going to win anything of significance as long as that's his logo. Karma from the universe, honestly. This is an interesting matchup because I do have a bit of an advantage in that I'm like that only team in the league who isn't really missing any big name players this week. I've really got my full lineup in there, except for the fact that I benched the Ravens defense and they scored like 35 points last night.
Oof.
I really got to figure out. I don't know why I keep playing the Chiefs when the Ravens have been close to a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
I've really got to stop doing stuff like that. Projection hasn't really changed. I think Glenn's gained a couple points. Dolphins' defense was brutal last night, obviously. But I didn't get much of anything from Jarvis Landry or Buck Allen either. So
right.
I'm still favored, but it's not looking like the highest scoring game of the week so far. Really, I think the only area where Glenn has me beat is quarterback, and that's simply because Deshaun Watson is a terrible matchup in Seattle. So who knows what's going to happen with him in that matchup. It's easily going to, I think, in my opinion, is going to be his toughest matchup so far in his career. I do think, and Brady has a great matchup against the Chargers, so I think Glenn has me there, but I wide receiver, I have playmakers there. I think I'm much better at tight end. And running back, neither of us really is impressive at that position. Glenn is going with Tevin Coleman this week. Coleman is, I believe, replacing Frank Gore, who Glenn's been playing a lot of recently. So we'll see how that works out. But, I mean, I think I'm going to win. I'm hoping I'm going to win. This seems like one of those games that I'm really considering how tough my schedule is coming up over the next month.
I'm going to give Glenn the benefit of the doubt. I think he has a shot to win.
Do you think he's going to win, or does he have a shot to win? That's a big difference.
Just a shot.
Well, that's not saying much. I mean,
call me the ultimate optimist, but I once again I think it'll be closer than people give credit for. I think Brady's going to keep him in. Like you said, Deshaun Watson has a tough matchup. I think Tevin Coleman will be all right this week. Joe Mixon's going to be all right this week. His running backs are not that bad. And, who knows? Amari could go off for 44 points.
One thing that Glenn is missing this week that has been kind of his MVP this year is the Jaguars D, who's on a bye, which is why you play Miami.
Right.
Jaguars D has been his MVP. They've outscored everybody. I believe the Jaguars defense is leading our fantasy league in scoring right now, which is pretty wild. That's like once in a decade type of stuff. But that's going to be interesting to see what they do because they're also scoring at a rate that almost seems unsustainable for a defense that's not the 2002 Buccaneers or the 2000 Ravens.
Right.
So I don't know. That's a bit of a wild card in Glenn's whole team situation. But I think missing a Jaguars defense, it sounds silly talking about missing a defense, but that definitely hurts him this week.
Agreed.
But I guess we'll see. This is a big matchup. The next game is Woj against Larry, two teams heading in completely opposite directions. I left Larry for dead when he dropped the 1-4. His team is not looking too bad right now. He's 3-4. He's won 2 in a row, and he's going against Woj, who is 4-3 and has dropped 2 in a row. And Larry wins this one. He's in a tie for last playoff position. So,
yeah,
weird to say, but Larry's done. I give Larry credit because I think he is his strongest point in fantasy. He's really good at finding players on waiver wire, and I think he's very good at managing his team in season, much better than other people in this league. So Larry's team, it's definitely not.
But you were just saying that he spent $31 on R. Kelly.
I don't like that move, and I also don't like that he's playing against them.
So you just contradicted yourself.
I did just contradict myself. I never said every move he makes is a good move.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Larry's team, it's very interesting. Completely healthy right now. Not even the slightest indication of an injury. We can't say the same for Woj Woj at the moment. Leonard Fournette's on a bye, obviously. Golden Tate, I don't think he's going to play this week. And without those two guys, Woj's team's hurt significantly. And this was something I mentioned, I think, a few weeks back when Woj was leading the South and looking strong. He just doesn't have the depth. He doesn't have the depth on his bench to handle multiple injuries in his lineup. And right now you're seeing that's kind of showing through. Larry's a pretty significant favorite, and I think this could get ugly this week. I think Larry's going to win big. Woj is playing Austin Eckler, which I'm assuming Woj is hoping Melvin Gordon loses snaps because I know Gordon's banged up. The motivation behind playing Eckler. But the rest of it, Jordan Matthews, he's missed time with injury, hasn't done much when he was healthy. Benny Fowler's a speculative pick at best. Woj's only shot is big games from, a big game from DeAndre Hopkins, who's against Seattle this week. That's not promising. So I don't like Woj's team at all. Maybe he catches lightning in a bottle with the Eagles D against San Fran, but I think Larry's going to win big. I think ESPN's being a little generous here.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Mike. It looks pretty one-sided.
Mm-hmm. And it's not to mention, not even mentioning that Larry's running backs. You got to look at Doug Martin's point total and realize that Martin actually missed the first few games of this season. I believe suspension. Martin's been the bell cow in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and
You
he's
know,
been he's been like he started out a little slow, but I mean, well, no, he didn't start out slow. What am I saying? No,
yeah,
he's been all right. I mean, last week was a little slow, but you know, he's been doing okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean he's an RB2, and Mark Ingram's been putting on borderline almost RB1 numbers. So Larry, I was complaining about his running backs earlier this season, saying how weak they were. How I mean Larry doesn't have any superstars on this team, but he's actually all of a sudden halfway through the year showing that he can fill his lineup out with startable players.
Yeah,
Um, so
yeah. By
he's
the way, you're making fun of everybody's running backs going into the season.
and then I think I might have the worst running backs in the league right now. So, um, of course,
Fair,
I'm the
well,
idiot who
yeah.
drafted Isaiah Crowell. So,
And I'm the idiot that traded for him.
yeah, yeah, I'm so happy you did that too, because I would be
Well,
very scared of your
I know you
team.
are. True.
Uh,
But
uh,
I will say this. I will say this.
mhm.
It for me though, I have Wentz. Knock on wood, I'm looking good. And I have to say it kind of, even though he's not starting right now, Crowell, it makes me feel a little bit comfortable that I have somebody that can go 8, 9 points at least as a backup running back. Obviously, it's not starter numbers, but it's better than what's out there on the free agent wire right now with most people. So, it. And plus, not gonna lie, when I did the trade at that point in time, he Deshaun Watson staying behind Aaron Rodgers.
Mhm.
You know, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm not faulting you for making that trade. It boosted my team dramatically, when especially when it just so happened that all my quarterbacks have ended up getting hurt at some point, except for him. I mean, that ended up being huge for
yeah,
me. I'd be in a
yeah,
shitter if I didn't trade for Watson, because I went essentially, at the quarterback position. So,
yeah.
um,
But just keep in mind though, he is a rookie, and I feel like it's going to catch up with him at some point.
something. If he does what RG3 did in his rookie year, which I think RG3 had a similar sort of super start, and then kind of wavered towards the end, but still ended up with low QB1 numbers, I'm fine with that. I would be
Right.
fine with that. I'm not expecting Watson to light it up every game, but we'll see what happens with him
True.
down the stretch. Your game this week is against Rob, and this is not the easiest matchup in the world.
No, it isn't.
Rob's playing well. Rob's team's playing well. Um, he's hanging tough. He's got two good running backs. Drew Brees against Chicago is not that it's nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, that
Um,
is definitely a trap game. Even though
yeah,
Chicago is not doing well for the season, they are not an easy defense. Like that defense is coming to show up and they're playing ball.
but they haven't played anybody, and that's my thing.
I wouldn't go that far.
They haven't played a good
Carolina's
quarterback.
Carolina's been solid. They have a pretty good offense. You
They
look
do
at
not have a good
Atlanta.
offense. You have clearly not watched the Panthers. Cam Newton looks awful.
I think you're being a little hard on Cam Newton.
No, I'm not being hard on Cam Newton. He sucks.
Okay, Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you Atlanta. I forgot that was that week one.
That was week 1, and they held them to 23 points. I mean, Atlanta hasn't been like the hottest team in the league. Don't get me wrong, but going into that week 1 game, you're playing against the defending NFC champions with that high-powered offense on paper. I mean, that's something.
Around here. All right, Atlanta, Tampa
But,
Bay, Pittsburgh, Green Bay. They did play Rodgers. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The last 3 weeks, I haven't played anybody. You
Right. But I'm just saying, like, that defense has, maybe not in fantasy terms, but in, like, real-life football, they've played pretty good. They've played pretty well. Excuse my English.
I think it's helping that Chicago is playing ground and pound football.
Yeah.
In an attempt to save John Fox's job, which I'm assuming that's the only reason why John Fox is going with it, because Bears are basically running the ball 50 times a game. But that I will say that
it's go ahead.
They're keeping the ball out of opponents' hands, which I think is they are doing a great job of controlling time of possession in their recent games, which has an effect on numbers, obviously. In any case, yeah, I get what you're saying. I still think Breeze against the Bears is a dangerous matchup. I am picking you in this game, however. I have to do it. I mean, you're getting so much production from all sorts of areas in the lineup, and you have some pretty good matchups this week. A lot of your players.
I do, but I think Bergen's going to get it. I'm overdue for a loss.
So you're 1-6 straight, and I haven't gone into the magic number of 7-game win streaks because there hasn't been many. There's only been 4 in the league's history.
Wow.
4. So you could make it 5 if you win again this week. But a lot of times we've had quite a few streaks over the years that end at 6.
Wow.
I don't know if that's just a coincidence or what it is, but going from 6 to 7 for some reason seems to be a hard thing.
Yeah. So, and again, that just makes me want to pick Bergen Blaze more. So.
Okay. That has nothing to do with what happened in the past. Has nothing to do with what's happening now, though.
Right. So. Fair. So.
You did win last time you guys played in week 3, 174 to 101. We'll see what happens this time.
Absolutely.
I don't think you're going to win by 73 points again. Let's put it that way.
No. For all I know, Bergen Blaze will win by 73 points.
I won't, but you never know with these types of things.
Fair enough.
We'll move on, and go ahead.
Not to cut you off, Mike, but I got to go. I got to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow, heading out to Long Island. So have a good night, everybody. Have a good night, Mike. Thank you for everything you do.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. Yep. All right. We're going to cut it short then. And I guess that'll be it. So. Yeah, last 2 games. What am I picking? We'll go with that. Yep. All right. That's it.